Now, to let you know, it's still loading up. Okay, I believe we're live.
Good evening. Evening, everyone.
Evening.
Hello.
Evening.
I'd like to open this planning board meeting for June 14, 2021 via Zoom. Members in attendance are Leo Pisano,
Yep.
Michael O'Connor,
Here.
George D'Angelo.
Here.
I see we have two alternates, James Tar and Philip Mastercola.
Yeah.
I don't see Cheyenne, is that correct?
Yeah, I don't see her.
All right. Clerk, Jean Vidakevich,
Here.
and Robin Stein of Council. And we have from the Planning Department, Jay Monty. Could we read the disclaimer, please, Mr. Monty?
Yes, here we go. In response to Governor Baker's declaration of a public health emergency and the related emergency executive order dated March 12, 2020, the Everett Planning Board shall be meeting remotely until further notice. The audio conferencing application Zoom will be used for this purpose. An online link and telephone access number will be provided on all meeting agendas and also on the city's website. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the city's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. This application will permit the public to access and participate in future board meetings and hearings. Instructions for joining meetings in this manner will be provided on the city and city clerk's websites. Public participation will be allowed only with dialing a toll-free number at 1-646-558-8656, and this number is listed on the agenda. When prompted, enter the meeting ID 975-8393-0470. Again, that number is on the agenda.
Thank you. That's it, Mr. Monty. Thank you. It's my understanding this will be our last Zoom meeting that is held at this present time.
Correct.
Unless anything changes, the state of emergency ends tomorrow, or at midnight tonight, tomorrow.
Right, but there was a notification sent out by our council saying that as of the 15th, all boards shall meet in person. Okay, so, excuse me.
Okay, just clarify, the Zoom info is on the agenda too for the public, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Can we have the first order of business, Mr. Monty?
Yes, the first order of business is old business, or roll call members. I'm sorry, roll call members.
You did that.
We've done that.
I'm sorry. Okay. First order of business then is a site plan review for 106 Nicholas Street. Proposal for an addition to the rear of an existing 3-story, 3-family brick building. The proposed addition is 3 stories high with parking on the ground level, 2 residential units on the 2nd floor and 2 residential units on the 3rd floor. The additional 4 units being proposed would bring the property to 7 residential units. The parcel of land located at 106 Nicholas Street is referenced by Assessor's Department as M0-07-000087. And this is continued from May 10th, 2021. I believe we did just receive an email from the proponents, with a Cheryl Tano, is that correct?
Yes,
And you mentioned that, oh, I'm sorry.
that was just earlier that I couldn't access the link, but that has nothing to do with the
Oh,
actual.
I'm sorry. Okay, never mind.
Thank you, though. Mhm.
Okay, is the proponent here?
Yep, that's Cheryl, I believe.
No.
Oh, it's not Cheryl.
Yeah, no, Cheryl's not the proponent.
Okay,
She's in the
sorry.
butter. I happen to be her counsel. I don't see the proponent here. I believe his name is it Zhang Wei? I can't recall, but he was here the last time. I don't see his name on the Zoom
Okay.
screen. right
Actually, I
now.
do have an email. Sorry, the email I was referring to was from Beth McDougall, who is an architect, I believe, for this project. And they're still waiting on the deed research. So they asked us to take this off the agenda until that information is provided.
Does that happen indefinitely? And did she just write to you today? Couldn't we have been notified earlier about that?
Yeah, I just received this email, I'd say in the last hour or two, yeah. And that does happen, I believe, that folks can do that.
They've done.
Okay.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion.
My only suggestion would be that you continue the matter to a date certain, even if you want to go out 2 meetings, but it's just a site plan. You want to keep the public hearing open.
What is their request?
Their request is, I believe, postponed or to continue.
With no particular emphasis on date or time?
No, just take us off the agenda until I can get the information, is all they say.
So I mean, where they didn't request to withdraw, my recommendation, even if you want to do it, say to the second meeting in July, perhaps.
There's only
just
one
be-
meeting in
It's only
July.
one.
When is July?
Yes.
19th.
Yeah, July 9th.
Maybe just continue it to then, and you can always clarify with them if they want to withdraw and come back or what have you, but that way you won't need to do any new noticing or publishing or.
Well, then the chair will entertain a motion.
A motion for continuance for site plan review 106 Nichols Street until July 19th, live at Everett City Hall, 3rd floor, 7 o'clock.
Second motion.
A motion has been made and seconded to continue 106 Nichols Street until July 19th, 7 PM, Everett City Hall. Roll call vote, please.
Jay, you want me to do it?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So we have Leo,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Fred,
Yes.
was enough?
We'll select Philip Massacola. I don't think he was the alternate last.
Bill,
Yes.
Is that okay, Phil?
Yep.
Okay.
and
Fine.
you voted yes? Okay.
You okay, Jim? Thank you. All right, the motion is passed.
Thank you.
But
Good
continue.
night.
Aye.
Next order of business.
The next order is new business, and this is for the urban renewal plan amendment to the Lower Broadway District. This is an amendment to the Lower Broadway District Urban Renewal Plan. Is being proposed for consideration by the planning board to determine whether the proposed amendment is consistent with the general plan for the city of Everett. We have here with us tonight Lily Sylvester from 4 Point Associates, who has been working on this with us. She may want to say a few words about this. And Jamie Fay, I see Jamie here as well.
Who would like to speak on this, please?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're here on behalf of the Everett Urban Renewal Authority, and we have a short presentation we'd like to share with you.
Okay. Who's presenting it?
I will present, Mr. Chairman.
Fine, thank you.
And let's see here. Just give me 1 minute while I try to find this.
Jamie, I can also pull it up if that might be easier. If you have many
Okay,
controls.
would you mind? That'd be great. So I'm just going to give you a quick background on this proposed amendment number 2 to the Lower Broadway District Urban Renewal Plan. Next. I'm going to briefly review some of the history of the Urban Renewal Plan, what this amendment is about, and open it up for any questions you may have. Next. So the Lower Broadway District Master Plan, you may recall, was done in 2013. That was Sasaki Associates came in and did a kind of visionary plan for the Lower Broadway area. Next. In 2015, the Urban Renewal Authority adopted a urban renewal plan for this area that was primarily targeted at helping to facilitate the Encore Boston Harbor Resort through a variety of measures, including some potential land acquisitions for access and widening of Broadway and so forth. Next. At that time,
You're supposed to be sharing the screen here. I have nothing. Are we sharing,
nothing.
looking at something?
You can't see it?
I see
No.
it.
We just see a.
Right, everyone, that's,
I can see it.
Yeah, I see it. It's fine.
What are we looking at?
There's a slide deck he's showing. Right now it says Lower Broadway District Planning History on the top. And then below that,
yep, I haven't received anything yet.
do you want to try
Sure.
resharing, Willie?
Not sure what's going on. I feel like most folks could see it.
Can folks see that now?
I can get it. I got it.
Yeah, I see it.
I see it.
I have it. Leo, you have it?
I have it. Yes, Fred. Yep.
And Michael, you have it now? Mike?
Looks like he's frozen.
Looks like he dropped off. Huh?
Let's go, we can give a minute and we can see if he goes back on.
Yeah.
Oh, here he comes.
Looks like he's back on. Nope. Yep, there we go. Mr. O'Connor, you able to see the screen? The Lower Broadway District Planning History?
Mike, are you in?
I got it. Just came back on.
Okay.
Okay.
Is-
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll continue.
Okay, Mike, you in?
Yeah, I'm good. Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right.
Okay, so we're just reviewing the planning history around the urban renewal plan, and the planning board in 2015 approved the original urban renewal plan, finding it to be consistent with the Lower Broadway District Master Plan and the Central Waterfront Municipal Harbor Plan. Next. So what's happened to date with the urban renewal plan? Well, obviously, the Encore Boston Harbor Resort has been constructed and opened and is functioning quite well. Lower Broadway was really completely rebuilt with a lot of amenities, new sidewalks and street lights and bike lanes and signalized intersections and turning lanes and so forth. And the Line Street Park was relocated to River Green as part of the larger complex there of athletic and recreational facilities. So those are the three big accomplishments to date. So in 2019, amendment number 1 was approved, which was considered to be a minor plan change, didn't require revoting by the planning board. And it basically was recognizing the relocation of Line Street Playground up to River Green and changing that area into public parking lots, Lower Broadway area, and improving that parking area with lots of street trees. Next. So now we come to amendment number 2, which is the topic of discussion tonight. This is considered to be a major plan change and requires the approval of the planning board. And this is really to try to focus a little more attention on the east side of Broadway. The last plan really, well, included east and west of Broadway. The last plan was really more focused on the west side. So, the goal is to try to capitalize on the existing Encore Boston Harbor Resort and see if, some exciting developments can be spurred on the east side, taking advantage of the proximity. Next. So the vision for this area is really to try to essentially develop the east side of Broadway with commercial uses, to extend the urban renewal plan area all the way to the waterfront, to the Mystic River, to provide public access and open space as part of this planning area, and to really create a higher level of uses other than what is now a lot of vacant land, industrial land, scrap yards, auto-related uses, and try to generate some higher end value and activity to create jobs, improve the tax base, and really develop Lower Broadway as a regional destination. Next. So the destination district, which is part of the urban renewal, the entire urban renewal area, the entire urban renewal area is shown outlined in red. The area of this amendment is the area shown in light blue. And it's basically east of Broadway, south of Beecham Street. That's the area that we're focusing on with this amendment. Next. So what's in store for this area? Really, we're looking at a wide variety of uses that would be focused on kind of destination entertainment type uses, art centers, concert venues, hotels, hospitality uses, marinas, water transportation facilities on the river, public access, recreational uses, restaurants, retail, sports, and fitness facilities. So really a focus in that area, trying to create a destination that can build on the other uses in the area. Next. So one of the major components of this amendment is to expand the area of the renewal area. and that area is shown in the lower right in striped red lines. And that is one parcel of land. That is a parcel of land called the station parcel, which includes a portion of the power plant site. Next. And the land uses on the left are the current land uses shown in the urban renewal plan, which kind of east of Broadway, it's kind of a mishmash of different uses. I don't think it would necessarily received a lot of attention in the last effort. And what we're proposing in this one is that pretty much most of those areas east of Broadway that we think have potential for redevelopment are targeted for generically commercial uses with a focus on things that are of destination value. Next. So the plan also includes the potential for 4 additional parcels of land to be acquired through eminent domain if private redevelopment is not successful. The original urban renewal plan did have a number of parcels identified as potential for acquisition. As it turned out, none of those needed to be acquired publicly. They were all negotiated privately. So those were never actually acquired by the Urban Renewal Authority. But there are a couple of key parcels here that we think are worthy of putting them on the list as a potential, with the hopes that private redevelopment will redevelop those and acquire those. So there are 4 parcels. 3 of them are on Mystic Street. And essentially you can see them in a light brown shading on the left. They're kind of key parcels, the last remaining parcels in 2 major blocks that are suitable for redevelopment. And so they're kind of the last pieces to fall into place. And then the station parcel itself, which I think there's just a lot of concern about this station parcel, given its current status, which is that it's no longer functioning as a power plant. Next. So this plan shows on the left and on the right how these potential acquisition parcels can become part of a larger redevelopment plan. The station parcel itself is a pretty significant size parcel in and of itself. So that's not so much an assembly issue as just a concern about the future direction of that parcel, given that it's now essentially no longer generating electricity. It's not needed for that purpose, and the assessment is that it will not be used for that purpose in the future as well, given the current regulatory environment and the antiquated facilities that exist on that site. So it's poised for redevelopment. I think having the Urban Renewal Authority with the power to potentially acquire that gives a lot of momentum to, a lot of control to the city and some momentum for spurring a redevelopment plan. Next. So in addition to expanding the urban renewal area and authorizing potential land acquisition if required, there are a couple other activities that are being proposed here. One, the Urban Renewal Authority would petition the city to discontinue a portion of Bow Street. Bow Street, veers off very closely to Broadway, and so you essentially have 2 parallel roadways right next to each other. And it seemed like there was a benefit of discontinuing that and potentially bringing the private development east of Broadway actually to Broadway, as opposed to having it set back from Broadway, from the street frontage. And secondly, The city's pursuing a plan for dedicated bus lanes on Lower Broadway, and the Urban Renewal Authority may play a role in creating sufficient right-of-way to accommodate those new bus lanes. And in the longer term, there's some other improvements in the area that are envisioned as well. One, a commuter rail stop west of Broadway in the vicinity of the Encore Boston Harbor Resort, with the potential electrification of that line and looking at a service. All the mayors in the North Shore are pushing together to try to promote a service that would have, instead of large, infrequent diesel-powered locomotives, they would have electrified, smaller trains, more frequent service to, it's not subway, but it's getting closer to something along that line. And then a pedestrian and bicycle bridge over the tracks to connect the DCR Parkland along the Malden River to the Lower Broadway area. Next. So here's kind of where we're at with this. Under state law, the planning board must determine that a major amendment or an urban renewal plan or a major amendment thereto conforms to the existing planning documents for the area, including a comprehensive plan to the extent that you have one for the city of Everett. So tonight, we're asking for a vote of the planning board to that effect, that it is essentially consistent with the Lower Broadway master plan, the Central Waterfront Municipal Harbor Plan, and the comprehensive plan for the city of Everett. With that, be happy to try to field any questions you might have.
So I just have one question. With the closure of that end of Bow Street, does that mean Mystic Street is closed as well?
So Mystic Street would continue through. No, the idea would be that Mystic Street runs out to Broadway. It doesn't just end at Bow Street, so go all the way through.
And does it now?
I actually don't think that it does now, but
It does, actually. I believe it does. Just it's a little bit awkward. It's not quite directly to Broadway, but it's right at the nose of that island. I believe you can make a left turn in there, but you may not be able to make a turn out of it. Is how it is today.
But Thorndike, it comes out to Broadway.
Yeah, so any streets that come out to Bow Street today under this plan here would just come out to Broadway directly.
I think the goal here is to create a couple of large blocks that would front on Broadway rather than fronting on Bow Street. Broadway being the major, commercial route in the area. So I think that's the goal here.
All right, thank you.
Are we here tonight just to determine if this is basically a good idea? Are we here to ask some kind of like hard questions on how this land is being taken? Eminent domain, we see that. But who buys this land, Mr. Fay? Who actually pays for it? City of Everett? And let's just take the one piece of, just take the station parcel. Okay, we'll concentrate on that for a moment. We have a very large piece of land there, contaminated, useless, has to get sold, yet it generates, and someone should have an answer for this. It generates, I believe, an awful lot of money in taxes. And I'd like to see that figure. How much does that generate? And I'm asking that question because if someone, the city, buys that piece of property, later on it's broken down into lots and sold off, does the city recoup all the lost tax base that we waited a number of years? That has to be abated. You got a long time down there to do a lot of work. You're talking 5 years, I think, before you see anything going on down there. And if the city takes it over, I don't know, could lose $1 million a year of tax base down there. So when it's sold, does the city get their tax money back? Or am I just going away from the general subject here?
Well, let me try to answer the question as best I can. I think your first question is what is the planning board doing on this particular issue? It is being asked whether this is consistent with kind of a planning vision of the city. Not so much is the urban renewal plan and all its details. That's not what the planning board is being asked to approve. That really is the purview of the redevelopment authority and the city council. But nevertheless, to answer your question, so the parcel that is included here, the so-called station parcel, is not part of the operations of the power plant today. Everything on that parcel is shut down. There are actually two parcels. There's another parcel that holds units 8 and 9, which are the ones that are really generating electricity, and they're ones that I would say probably from a tax revenue standpoint are the ones that are actually generating income and providing tax revenues. So I can't give you the specific numbers here, but certainly the value of the parcel with no power being generated on it is much less than whatever it was in the past when it was being used for power generating. And so I think part of the concern here is that if it just sits vacant like this, that, as you say, there'll be a reduction in tax revenue to the city. So I think the goal is to try to spur some redevelopment. The goal is not to acquire the parcel. The goal is to at least have that as a tool in your toolbox if and when you might need to do it. But I think the goal is to try to find a private redeveloper who can come in and redevelop this appropriately, and not, so the city would not have, city meaning the redevelopment authority, would not have to acquire the property or come up with the money either. So, but in the worst case here, which is not what we're expecting, but in the worst case, if for some reason the city felt that it was in its interest to acquire the property, it would probably do so in concert with a redevelopment process, which would essentially have the city carrying out an acquisition, but then turning it over through a public process to a private redeveloper. So it would be essentially the funding for that would come from the potential redeveloper, not initially from the city. If that,
I mean, these are kind of like basic questions, like let's take that out of the equation, station parcel, go back up to the other ones, the ones that you're going to take eminent domain, or that are, take those for instance. Who, again, I say, buys the property, breaks down into lots? Who determines what developers get it? Is it, I just think maybe I'm stepping out of my bounds here asking these questions, but it just seems like I was involved with we all were involved with the previous one, and we broke this down under the different people that have left. It's just that I got a lot of questions, and maybe they're not relative to this whole thing. And it's all got to do with money. Basically, does ever buy all the, taking that station parcel out, does the city of Everett have to pay for all these lands that are being taken? Who decides, again, what contractors get it? I'd like to know who already owns a lot of that property down there. We don't know that yet. I mean, is it mostly wind? I know there's some other developers already in there buying. I think you're asking a lot to take a 59-page renewal plan, and I barely got to read it and make a decision that, yeah, this is a good idea. It's consistent. The last time we went through this, we had the building inspector, Jim Sopa. We had Tony Souza, who was the director at the time. They sat down and explained the whole thing to us, and that was minor. That was the zoning changes in a few things. You're asking us now to accept a plan that's, what is it, 14 years to go after the last 6 or 20-year plan? I think you're asking a lot for one night for us to digest all this, at least for me anyway. So I don't know if I don't know if it's such a great idea to pass this tonight. We have a meeting coming up again in July with an open meeting. And I think some other people should be there to go help us through this. Our council, for one, just to know what footing the planning board has as far as making decisions on this whole parcel is concerned, on this amendment. So I'm just gonna pass on the whole thing for tonight. I just find it a lot to take in. I mean, the chairman brings up Bow Street. First thing everybody sees, Bow Street. Used to be the way we used to cut through because the traffic was jammed up on Broadway. Everybody shoot up Bow Street. Now you want to take it out of there. I don't know if that's a good idea. Obviously, the chairman has thoughts on it, and I'm pretty sure the rest of the people that live in the city have thoughts on it. So anyway, I'm gonna pass here tonight to whoever wants to speak on the subject. So thank you very much, Mr. Fay.
Let me, if I could, just let me try to respond to a couple of points. I think just to clarify, again, unlikely, but possible that some of these parcels would be acquired, and they would be acquired, if they're acquired by the Urban Renewal Authority, which is not the city. And so it would not be city money. Actually, it'd be Urban Renewal Authority monies that would be used for that. So to the extent that someone's concerned about its impact on the financial health of the city, that's really not an issue. The Urban Renewal Authority is independent, has their own sources of funding, would use those for that acquisition. Yeah, I understand, concerns on things like Bow Street. There's a process that, would have to be undertaken in order to make that happen. There'll be a lot of involvement. The planning board authority and through zoning doesn't change at all. I mean, the planning board is still in charge of zoning for this whole area. The discontinuance of public way is going to take action by other bodies as well. So all this, even though it's part of what's being proposed, requires the participation of a lot of other entities, within the city before it can actually happen. So.
Who is the Urban Renewal Authority? The state?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that.
Now, the Urban Renewal Authority is a authority created by the city. The members are appointed by the mayor, except for one who is appointed by the governor. And they meet regularly and carry out their functions. And
where do they get the money to buy this property?
Well, again, no property has been acquired yet.
When it does get acquired, where will they get the money from?
Well, all that's being discussed right now is giving them the authority to acquire, which is what they were given in the original urban renewal plan for the parcels that were identified in that urban renewal plan. So we're simply adding to a list of parcels that they could potentially acquire if necessary, if private redevelopment is not successful in redeveloping those parcels.
You would think, and that someone from the URA would be here to answer some of those questions. I mean, I just think you're asking us an awful lot to vote on this tonight, to vote yes. I think you're looking for, obviously, on something as intricate as this whole project. It's just a lot. That's all. I don't know how the other members feel. I just think it's a.
May I ask a question? Would I be allowed to do so?
Go ahead, Jim.
Okay. Just theoretically, if this amendment were to pass and this land, the station parcel, were to go to a higher and better use, over time, it would generate more tax revenue for the city than it is currently doing so today. Is that correct?
I think in general you're correct, but it would depend on the specifics of what the redevelopment plan was. And I think the baseline to compare it to is not so much what it's generating today, but what it will be generating next year, because once it's abandoned, the economic value is gone. And so the assessment would decline.
Well, that's my point. A declined assessment compared to what it could be as a more developed parcel.
I think you're right, James. Over time, you're correct. It will generate more if it's developed properly. But why should we give a developer property to develop and we, the taxpayers, lost revenue down there? That's all I'm saying. Do we get our money? Do we get our tax money back? That's all. Simple question. Developer comes in, takes over the property, gives the urban renewal X amount of dollars. They do whatever they do with it. Taxpayers look at it and say, well, what happened to all the tax money we were supposed to get? I know we're going to do better, but what are we, going across the street to the casino to gamble on us doing better? We should
Less
be
of
in
a
the
gamble and more of an
agreement
investment from my
that
point of view.
that we get the money back for that. That's all.
It would be less of an investment and more, or less of a gamble and more of an investment from my point of view, if it generates more tax revenue down the line.
Either or,
No.
Jim. The taxpayer is going to be out money. A developer is going to benefit from our loss. That's all.
Let me just try to clarify that point. I don't think it's fair to say that taxpayers will be out of money. So the property is taxable now. Its value is likely going to decrease significantly. So there will be less revenue coming in the future. But, you know, again, this plan envisions a private redevelopment of that parcel, which presumably will increase its value and increase tax revenue to the city. So there's no drop in tax revenue here.
If it sat there for 5 years and you lost $100,000 on taxes on it, would you say that's a loss that the city should somehow be able to recuperate?
Well, I it's not going to sit for 5 years in Urban Renewal Authority ownership. It's likely never to be in Urban Renewal Authority ownership. It's likely to go from its current ownership to a private redeveloper. As a backstop, the Urban Renewal Authority has the power to take it, and if they do so, they would do it with a public disposition process with a private redeveloper. So essentially, if they ever were in a position to feel like they had to acquire it, they would acquire it and then dispose of it to a private redeveloper essentially immediately. So there would be no loss of tax revenue to the city.
Okay, thank you.
I have a very hard time seeing this sitting for years and years. This is prime real estate development land. This is some of the most sought after land in the entire Commonwealth. From a real estate development point of view.
Yes, it is. It is determined to be very negotiable property.
Cord just fell onto it.
However, you have to remember when a developer comes in, they make all these kind of incentives for this developer to come in. And whether we receive tax deferred for 5 years or 10 years, it just, we don't know. So it's whatever the developer and the city negotiate.
So we should leave it more. We should leave it more in the hands of the redevelopment authority, as far as finances are concerned, and just not even worry about it. Let them worry about it. Would that be fair, Mr. Fay, to say that? The questions I'm always having are monetary. Okay, I being a taxpayer, obviously that's what I'm looking out for. So, but if it's nothing to do with the planning board, then forego the whole thing. That's why our council, I was looking for some input from Ms. Stein. So whatever.
Leo, I didn't realize you had a specific question for me.
Well, how you doing? Am I overstepping the planning board's boundaries again?
No, honestly, this is the first I've seen of the plan, so I'm not, of the amendment, so I'm not really in a position to answer specific questions about it this evening.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to the board. I think what you want to do tonight or another night, we can certainly take a look at it, but I haven't had an opportunity to review it yet.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, Robin, that I think tonight is Mr. Fay gave us an introduction to it. We just got this packet. I picked it up today, read it, but to digest 59 pages in a matter of a couple of hours, a lot to ask on such an important document. So as far as I'm concerned, a continuance should be in order.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know the city's timeline, so Mr. Fay might be able to speak to that, or Jay might be able to. I don't know.
Jay, you want to address that?
So I believe the intent was to get a vote tonight. That said, if the board is not comfortable with that, then it can be continued. And I would just, emphasize what Jamie has said, that, we already have an urban renewal district in this area. The rules of the game haven't changed, whether it's the station parcel, whether it's any of the other parcels that have been part of that urban renewal plan for the last 5 years. This amendment seeks to simply add additional parcels to that area, if that makes anybody feel different about it.
And again, the requested approval from the planning board, just to be clear, is Mr. Pisano, you're correct. It's not on the financing of the plan or the fiscal impact of the plan or anything else. It's does this concept of creating a district in this area that becomes a destination district, is that consistent with the Lower Broadway master plan, which again, I think it is, but is consistent with your vision for the city of Everett as well. That's essentially the vote that's being requested of the planning board, not the financial details.
Okay. I agree with the whole plan as it's put forward, the development of the area, taking all those parcels, the old dilapidated buildings and taking them down. Couldn't ask for anything more. Losing Steve Wynn way back when, I think he would have had that whole thing done and developed down there already. So I'm for the plan. That's not the question. But it's just, I don't want someone coming back in 5 years and saying, boy, the planning board screwed up by okaying that and not checking on anything. And if we don't check on the monies, then it's not our problem if that's not under our jurisdiction. So as far as the plan is concerned, it's a good plan. We get into a lot more traffic. You can't, a few years ago before when you couldn't move down there, sat there forever, bitched about it for years. No one did anything. Wind comes along, blows the street out, makes it nice and wide. Everything's great. Now you go down there and you develop all the parcels along Broadway. What does that do for the traffic down there now? Are we hurting it or are we helping it? So again, does traffic come under this proposal? We say this is a good idea. The concept, we're voting only on a concept here then, not the actual plan of streets need to be widened. They're more worried about putting the buses down there than widening it to get the traffic through down there. So that's what I'd be concerned about, but that'll come later, Mr. Fay. Am I correct in that?
You're absolutely correct. The
Okay.
planning board still has its authority over, planning and zoning in this area. That's not taken away from them. And
Okay.
any street closings, or you'll have site plan review over all these developments. Everything will come back to you certainly before it's built.
That's important because when Wynn put the parking lot across the street from his casino, it was the concept of moving people via overpass, let's call it, from one side to the other. That goes back 5, 6, 8 years when we complained to them about trying to put that in. And they kind of backdoored us on that one, said, yeah, then it came back, no, we're really not doing it. But we'll do it when we take the parking lot down and put up the new building. So these are things that just come back later on to haunt us, that I don't want something to haunt us that we missed on this, that's all. So if voting on this just as a general concept, I can understand it and I can improve it. Basically, I don't have a problem with it.
Sometimes it's frustrating because things do take a long time to develop. And,
Yep.
you know, this started in, you know, now 8 years ago, I guess, with the original master plan. But, you know, you do have a lot to show for it. I mean, a lot has happened. A lot has happened. Good things have happened. And I think it's spurred on, you know, we're trying to see if we can spur on more good things to happen. And that's kind of what the game plan is.
No, I totally agree with the concept. Absolutely. Thank you.
Hearing what we've heard, any other questions or comments?
I would just say it would stand to reason with the conceptual proposals you put out with dedicated bus lanes, with all the kinds of enhancements that we made to public transportation. That would have a net positive impact in the traffic situation. No, that would definitely help. Would keep some cars off the road for a new development that would be going on there.
And I think part of it is that, you know, people will come maybe and stay longer. It's not so much they'll be coming in and out, everything, but maybe there's 3 or 4 things somebody can do in Everett on a Saturday afternoon or a Friday evening or whatever, rather than just one thing to do. So it wouldn't necessarily generate a lot more trips if people were going to more than one destination in the area.
Will they actually build a commuter rail? I mean, would that be confirmed that they would do something like that? Commit to a commuter rail on Lower Broadway?
So the Urban Renewal Authority is not proposing to build that. Obviously, it would have to be built by the MBTA. But it is something that everybody's advocating for.
Right, 'cause I seen that on your plan there. I was just wondering if that confirmed with them also being on board with that, you know, so.
So if I could speak just for a second, when we show all these things on the plan, whether it's widening Broadway, whether it's for buses or for traffic, we show a commuter rail, Bow Street, those are, I don't want to call them aspirational, but what they do in terms of a process piece, when you advocate for the MBTA to build that commuter rail station, or you advocate for a developer to build the bridge over Broadway, it shows that it's consistent with the city's plan and the city's goals. So we show it on the urban renewal plan as an aspirational goal, but ultimately whether that happens or not is dependent on the negotiations with the specific developer or the specific agency. Is that right, Jamie?
And Jay, I just have a quick question. That also, all that kind of large scale development that would be, hoped for in that neck of the woods, that would all tie in with transportation demand management as well, wouldn't
Correct.
it?
Yep.
Which was something that was just passed. It was a very forward-thinking piece that I think that this board did, and that the planning department was really responsible for and did an excellent job on.
Thanks, Jim.
You got it.
Any more comments, questions? Mr. Fay or anyone?
I know, anyways.
Well, then, give me something for the chair to entertain a motion for something.
Well, I guess we could make a motion for favorable action on the Urban Renewal Plan Amendment number 2 to Lower Broadway District.
Second motion.
A motion has been made and seconded for approval of Urban Renewal Plan for Lower Broadway number 2. Can we have a roll call vote?
Michael,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
what else we got now tonight? Bill,
Hello.
Yes,
Leo,
Yes.
Fred.
Yes. Motion has passed.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time and attention, and pleased that you're able to devote so much time to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next agenda item.
Yes.
Okay, site plan and inclusionary zoning. Site plan review and inclusionary zoning for 35 Garvey Street. Proposal for the development of a currently vacant lot with a recorded activity use limitation totaling 639,300 square feet to construct a single mixed-use building with 450 residential units, of which 23 are proposed to be designated as affordable. 35 Garvey Street is a parcel of land referenced by the Assessor's Department as K0-07-00088. And we do have the proponent here with us tonight.
Is this a new parcel, please? Is this a new piece?
This is a new business, yes.
But I mean, it's a new parcel we've never
So
used.
this was a parcel that the planning board previously approved development for. This is the Market Ford site.
Okay, the Forge site that was about like 595 units or something.
Yes. So they're back to resubmit to the planning board. There's been some major modifications to the site plan. There's new ownership. So they are here to present on their new proposal.
All right. Can we have the proponent speak, please?
Good evening. I'm going to open it up for the group that I'm here with. My name is Jennifer Schultz, and I lead the land use and permitting group at the law firm Sullivan and Worcester in Boston. And I'm here representing the new proponent for the project at 35 Garvey, Gray Star. And along with me tonight, you'll shortly hear from Chris Lugosi for Gray Star, the architecture team, landscape team, civil engineer team as well. Just very briefly, I wanted to set up, as was just referenced, that the proponent is seeking a major modification to the existing site plan approval and special permit regarding affordable housing for the site. They are keeping the same use for the site, residential with ground level activation at the streetscape, and but otherwise they are entirely reducing all impacts of the project. They're reducing the overall size of the project, reducing the overall height, reducing the unit count for the residential units, and reducing the parking count significantly, including the elimination of a freestanding parking garage that had been previously reviewed and approved, and absorbing parking into the building itself. Despite the fact that the project is having all of its impacts reduced across the board, and the rest of the team will provide you some more details on that, the new proponent is nevertheless still prepared to honor all of the conditions of the site plan approval and special permit that were granted as part of the approvals last April in 2020. Some of those conditions were included significant mitigation, which again, the proponent is still prepared to honor without reduction, despite the reduction in impacts of the project. The only item that I did want to note, which was part of our modification application, is condition number 44 on the site plan approval. We're not seeking any change to the substance of that condition, which was a $25,000 contribution for roadway improvements. The only request we're making, as set forth in the letter with our application, is a modification to the language, essentially, to clarify that it is not the proponent doing any of that roadway work, because the roadway work does touch a state highway layout and could arguably be seen as a state action, which could then pull the entire project into MEPA. And so again, the proponent is still fully prepared to make the $25,000 contribution, but we're requesting a modification in the language to that condition so that we can clarify that our role, the proponent's role, is solely contributing that funding, but is not otherwise involved in that work that does touch the state highway. To sum up, we're seeking a modification to the existing approvals, all of which lead to a reduction in the impacts of the project, but prepared to honor all of the existing conditions and mitigation. And so to provide more detail, I'm going to pass it over to Chris first, who's going to speak on behalf of the proponent. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jennifer. My name is Chris Lugosi. I'm a director of development with Gray Star. I'd like to share some slides, if I may, as we walk through our presentation here. So please let me know if this is successful here. Are you able to see the cover page that I've put up on the screen here?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank Chairman Cafaso and the members of the Planning Board and the Planning Department staff for the opportunity to present Greystar's proposed modification to the design of the previously approved project at the Market Forge site at 35 Garvey Street. Before I jump into the presentation here, I'd just like to note that this past week marks a very exciting date for Greystar and the city of Everett, as we have officially closed on the sale of 85 Boston Street, the Woodway site. And we've started construction on our project there, which will ultimately include 650 residential units, ground floor retail, and 33 affordable homes. So I'd like to just start with a big thank you to the Planning Board and the department staff for their leadership and collaboration in bringing that project to fruition.
I did see that in the Boston Globe, Mr. Legowski.
We're very excited about it and look forward to those who can join us for our groundbreaking ceremony. It's a really tremendous milestone for us and we think the city. So thank you. So a little bit of background here. Greystar is a firm believer in the city's vision for the Commercial Triangle Economic Development District. And from that experience at the Woodway site on Boston Street, we feel we have an unmatched understanding of what it takes to bring a project from site plan to reality. We believe that the nearly 5-acre site at 35 Garvey Street presents an incredible opportunity to expand that revitalization of the Commercial Triangle Economic District beyond what's happening along Vale Street. And we've been working tirelessly to reimagine the project in the format that I'm very excited to share with you tonight. So starting out with the existing conditions here, if you can see that, I'm starting to flip through the slides here. The property was previously occupied by the longtime industrial manufacturer Market Forge Industries. And the property sat vacant since 2015 when it sold and has since gone through a series of efforts to raise the site and bring it to the market as a development opportunity. The property has undergone thorough environmental testing and is known to be heavily contaminated due to historic industrial uses and will require a considerable amount of remediation work before vertical construction can begin. Let's see here. So this is the view. I'm sorry, I'm looking at two screens here, so apologize as I jump around. This is the view from Spring Street and 2nd Street looking in the northwesterly direction. And then stepping into the property, this is the current state of the site for those who haven't been by recently. Again, at that same corner, but within the site perimeter and looking in that northwesterly direction. And finally, this is jumping down to the other end of 2nd Street and looking in the southeast direction, again, within the bounds of the property itself. So the project was approved by the Planning Board last year for the development of 591 residential units and a standalone open air parking garage structure with over 1,000 parking spaces in total. The site plan for the approved project is on the right side of this slide, along with salient metrics on the dimensions and scale of the project. On the left side is our proposed design for the project, which we'll go through in more detail in this presentation, but at a high level, we are eliminating the freestanding garage structure. We're lining 2nd Street with active retail and amenity uses, reducing the overall unit count by approximately 24% to 450 units. And as a result of that, we're substantially decreasing the traffic impact of the project per the analysis that we submitted by our traffic engineer who also conducted the original peer-reviewed traffic study on this project. We're anticipating up to a 39% reduction in vehicular traffic impacts here. So we spent countless hours studying the site and determining how to best design this project, and we're very happy with the final product here. To talk to it a little bit more eloquently and with some more detail, I'd like to hand the proverbial microphone over to Tom Schultz, who's our lead designer with the award-winning architecture firm TAT, so that he can speak to the project's design. Tom, are you available?
Yes, thanks, Chris. You want to go to the next slide? Thanks. So you're all probably really familiar with the site at this point, but this is a view from about the stadium looking back towards Boston, and you see Second Street in the foreground in front of the proposed development. From an urban design standpoint, the overall master plan design strategy was really to create a sense of place, and that's not just for the residents, but for the public as well. And we've done this by developing strong urban edges along the streets, Second Street and Spring Street, as well as Garvey Street. Really creating a meaningful pedestrian experience along those edges, especially Second Street, where the city easement has provided the public with a bike path for the length of the frontage along Second Street. Being first to create and engage the streetscape will require a balance of the right retailers that Chris will speak to in a moment, and respect for the existing surrounding uses until the district's redeveloped or transformed. So the general massing is of a double loaded corridor, which you've seen before, that is organized along Second and Spring Street, and then also around 3 internal courtyards over the 2-story podium. So the 2-story podium will house the 564 parking spaces, along with a liner along Second Street of 6,500 square feet of retail space, and the bulk of the 14,000 square feet of residential amenities, really trying to activate the frontage along Second Street. The massing really creates a healthy, light-filled outdoor spaces. You can see all the green space along the front and those courtyards, plus the dog park in the back. There will be a mix of spaces with the multiple retailers, the main building entrance on Second Street, the amenities, all creating an activated and porous and really vibrant streetscape. That easement really affords the frontage to have all the layers necessary for a true streetscape. From a typical cross section, we'd have parallel parking, street trees, benches, the bike path, bike racks, street lights. It'll be truly a respite from the current industrial uses. Along Spring Street, detailing turns the corner. We have the step down and the massing a little bit to relate to some of the context in the Southwest. Also where we'll have a ride share, Uber, Lyft drop off that Chris will speak to in a moment. From a facade design standpoint, you can see that we're trying to create some differentiation in the massing and the facade, but the overall design strategy is to create a contemporary building language that fits in contextually with those larger moves. And then the underlying facade organization is, you've heard me say this before, but a base, middle, top kind of approach. And you'll see that apparent throughout the project. But it's developed uniquely at different edges through changing scales, various material and fenestration groupings of windows, color and detailing. And that allows the project to have a visual variety across the overall design, still relating to the diverse context that the urban setting offers, and as the district transforms over time. In terms of materiality, in general, the building will have a strong base, as you can see with that podium, that will be detailed of strong and durable materials. And then the upper portions that are residential will be combined with textured panels that are juxtaposed by vertical window groupings, that fenestration I was mentioning, which are organized and sized to relate to the internal residential, either semi-public or private uses. So their sizes will relate to those spaces. The real great thing about being in such a transformational district is that what is good for our residents and the proponents of the future residents is good for the revitalization of the district. So I think Chris can speak to some of those as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Tom. So bringing down this view into the street level and understanding how we're envisioning this here, we think that this project presents an opportunity to catalyze the transformation of Second Street to be a vibrant mixed-use corridor with those active street level uses and engaging outdoor plaza spaces that Tom just described. While the approved project design that was reviewed and approved last year is at the minimum retail required by the zoning ordinance, we in this design have exceeded that zoning requirement by over 15%. We've put all that retail space along the street level at 2nd Street, along with those amenity uses for the building. And our thoughtful approach to the landscape design allows each of those dynamic active uses to pour out into street level plazas and seating areas along the sidewalk. So our vision is to allow each of the retailers at this project to bring their own design and character to the exterior of their spaces, and in turn project their business identity to the public and create a vibrant experience as you go down 2nd Street. And we think that's really important because our goal here is to bring small businesses and local businesses to operate the retail space in this project and contribute to the overall character and fabric of the community. I want to make it clear that the way that we're approaching the retail at this project is really to be a benefit for the residents and for the community, and not an opportunity to enhance the bottom line of this project. We think the right thing to do here is to really bring in the right retailers, give them an opportunity to express themselves along our frontage, and build that into the experience along this part of the neighborhood. So consistent with the city's vision of 2nd Street as a multimodal transit corridor, we've preserved the easement to be granted on the property for the future expansion of the MBTA Silver Line. So for those who may not be familiar, that's a 15-foot easement granted in perpetuity for the eventual expansion of the Silver Line, which we're very excited about and think will bring just really great things here and upstream and throughout the city. We've also maintained the dedicated bike line that is separated from vehicular traffic, and the generous setback and multimodal transit accommodation along 2nd Street will really transform this street to a 21st century urban thoroughfare, right? When you look at contemporary urban design and the thoughtful configuration of these different means of transit, in a safe and well-designed manner, we're really excited at the opportunity to bring that here. So Spring Street is something that Tom touched on, and that connectivity from 2nd Street there. So in response to the increasing number of rideshare trips that we're seeing across town and just broadly across the country, and specifically the feedback that we got from city staff on some preliminary discussions around our design concepts, we've dedicated an area for pickup and drop off of ride shares of the likes of Uber and Lyft along Spring Street. So we're envisioning a safer experience and diverting those frequent vehicle stops off of 2nd Street. And additionally, the sidewalk and landscaping that extend from 2nd Street will go around the corner and down Spring Street, creating a welcoming connection to the public space that we have designed and branded as the Bark Park. So on this, I'll let Jay Emperor, who's our landscape architect with Bowler Engineering and I believe with us tonight, I'll let him jump in and talk through the concept of the Bark Park, which we think is a really fun and exciting neighborhood amenity.
Great, thanks, Chris. Yeah, in addition to a diverse and vibrant streetscape along 2nd Street and Spring Street, at the south side of the building, we're proposing a very good sized dog park for the community that's accessible via pedestrians from both Spring Street and Garvey Street on sidewalks. And we found the dog parks are about as much as the humans as they are about the dogs. So it's an opportunity to activate the space with, perhaps food trucks, small gatherings, festivals, or whatnot in a small plaza adjacent to the fenced-in dog park. There'd be trees, paths through the dog park. It'd be fenced in, obviously. It's be also irrigated to maintain, keep odors and whatnot down. But we see it as a great destination for the area, especially as more buildings and apartments are built. It'd be a great destination for dog owners to visit.
Great, thank you, Jay. Yeah, we believe that with the right design and execution, these pet-friendly parks can create really incredible spaces for the public where residents and their neighbors can convene and strengthen the social fabric of the community. The ability to bring not just a simple turf area for parks, but rather design it in a way that is going to be conducive to people leisurely bringing their pets there and interacting with their neighbors. We think is going to be a really, really positive part of tying this into the broader community here. So to summarize here, we're extremely excited about the community benefits that we're able to achieve under this modified project design. The project will contribute greatly to the revitalization and transformation of 2nd Street with a contemporary design, active street level uses, multimodal transit, and public gathering spaces. And across the board, as Jennifer mentioned, we have substantially reduced vehicular traffic impacts and unit density, and we were able to eliminate the freestanding garage structure, which we think is a really positive urban design decision for this site. Our keen understanding of project engineering and costs and our ability to take on the substantial remediation that is required for this project will allow Greystar to move quickly to bring this vision into construction with a target of starting this project by the end of this year. So despite the substantial reduction in project density, we're not seeking any sort of modifications to the commitments that have been agreed to under the current project approvals, which do include considerable utility infrastructure for the water main and drainage line, financial contributions to various public realm improvements, and of course the easement granted for the MBTA expansion. We're really here tonight to focus on bringing this project to the right design that we think is the right fit and feasible for bringing this to reality in the near term. So with that, I'll wrap up. I'd like to thank you all for your time and consideration of our proposed project updates, and we welcome any questions or feedback that the board may have.
Thank you very much. Any questions, board?
I have a question about the dog park that you have there. You said it's for the Everett residents. That's for only the Everett residents, and if it is, how would that be regulated? Would that be on you guys, or would that be a city thing? For other people coming in? Or is it just for the residents of Everett and the people of that complex?
No, this would be privately owned and maintained by Greystar. There's no burden on the city or any public departments, and it would be open to any resident or anyone who wants to come and use it. It's not going to be limited to residents of our building or certain, really in any way. It's a public space.
I just want to. You just said Everett residents. I just wanted to make sure. I want to see how that really played out. All right, thank you.
Yep.
I've got a question regarding the parking. You're going to have 450 units. How is the parking going to be assigned? Is it going to be a spot per unit?
So the parking will be per the conditions unbundled from the residential rent and from the commercial rent. So the parking will operate, somewhat independently from the lease agreement. So the tenants can elect to rent spaces. They could elect to not. There's no obligation for them to take those spaces. In terms of whether we will designate certain spaces, we will have certain spaces designated for car sharing, and there will be covered bike parking for 100 bicycles in the garage, again, per the conditions of the prior approval. But beyond that, we're not necessarily tying specific spaces to specific units.
Yeah, because you're 141 units less than before, but you dropped 442 spots, which is quite a lot of parking spots.
Right. Right. So the ratio there is roughly 1.25 parking spaces per residential unit, and that is in compliance and above the zoning requirement. We think that the prior project was overparked. I think that this amount of parking will be supportive of the residents using public transit but still providing the parking that is needed for this kind of a multifamily project. Ultimately, we're confident that it will be sufficient parking for these residents, and there will be no street level parking or public street parking granted to these residents. That is another condition of the approval, is that the city will not grant public street permits. So that should contain any risks or concerns about parking spilling out of our garage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have to get any variances for this project?
No, this project is as of right.
Okay. Any brick going up on this building?
So, when we look at the street level and what those retail spaces may look like, I think that there certainly is an opportunity to bring in a wide variety of materiality. At this point, we haven't selected specific material products. We are at a schematic level of design here, as was the approved project, and we'd like to advance this design and go through our process of selecting the right materials. So we haven't made a determination as to whether brick will be one of those products yet.
When you finalize your thoughts on that, will you be submitting them to the planning board? You're
Yes,
supposed to submit materials and colors.
that's
at
right.
some point. Yeah, okay.
That's right.
And if we say to you, we want brick, are you gonna fight us on it? Or are you gonna say, okay, I mean, it's a cost factor, I understand, but a lot of the buildings that we try to get 20% on, and we have gotten that. I hope that you're gonna be in the same category.
We have taken the approach of mixed materiality on this, and as Tom had described better than I ever could, bringing that into the different elements of the building exterior and facade. So I think it's very difficult to determine percentages at this point, or where that might be the appropriate fit. We think that this kind of a design and contemporary approach to the materiality could be very successful with a variety of products.
I mean, we're always worried about your hardy board, whatever, making it look like a cement building down the bottom. So I like brick. It's nothing new. You guys are well aware of it. We went through it with the previous building. Anyway, we'll look at that when the submittals come in. Your roof level. I see this rendition is pretty flat. Is it going to stay flat, or are you going to have all kinds of equipment up there that's going to be seen from all over?
We will. We haven't designed the specific MEP systems yet. I would envision that there will be mechanical equipment on this project, as is typical for this sort of wood frame project. The location of that equipment, though, we make every effort, and we're generally very successful in bringing it towards the center of the project and away from any location where you could view it from the street level. Those units are relatively small, and for anyone at a pedestrian or vehicle level, generally invisible.
Well, if they wind up putting that 248-foot building across the street from you, they're not going to like the idea of looking at your A-handle units, particularly if, I don't know if this pertains to this building, but there's an Everett design guidelines that calls for all your mechanical equipment shall have parapets, cupolas, or dormers to screen them from the view of the public space, or right-of-ways, a public view. I just don't want to see that roof marred with all kinds of equipment that under normal circumstances should be put behind screening. And I don't want to be fighting you down the line saying, that looks terrible, where's the screening? That's all. I mean, you're asking for an approval that you haven't completed your designs yet. So how do we okay a building when we don't know where all your equipment's going? We don't know if there's any brick going, what your designs are gonna be down there. I think this needs a little more touch up on the detail end for us to give you a final approval on this. And as far as your vents are concerned, for your mechanicals, your vents for your bathrooms, where are they coming out? Kitchen vents, exhausts, all those things that make these buildings either right or wrong. I don't see that in your detailing. It would be nice to see, Chris.
Understood. So we have we've taken the design to the same level as what was reviewed and approved previously, and we've actually furthered the civil design beyond that, and made efforts to by paying the review fees and submitting a complete application, push as much forward here as we can for a thorough review. We as we go from this level of design towards project complete design, then we're going to go through those processes of placing the equipment and ensuring that the sight lines are right. But at this level and for the site plan review, we've followed what we think is the design level of development to conceptualize this project and match what was approved. And ultimately, the request here is not to accept a lesser level of design or a greater level of design. It is an alternate to the site layout and programming that follows this footprint and unit count versus the prior approval.
And Chris, I would just add that there is right now a condition, sort of a design proviso in the existing approvals that we would expect would remain. That, as Chris referenced earlier, would require continued submissions and design review and working closely and cooperatively with the planning department as those designs proceeded. So certainly this is not the last that we'll be seeing of this project prior to submission for a building permit. We expect lots of work to come, but that it is not a requirement that the designs have advanced to that stage for approval of the modification, but instead that is a condition to the ultimate, building permit application. So between now and then, that's all the work to come.
You say, it's funny, you say modification. It's a whole new building. There's nothing to do with the old building. Modification would be as if you took the old building, the two of them, and joined them together or something. That's even a major. This is a whole new design, as one of the other board members brought up earlier. This is a whole new building, conceptually, from top to bottom. Has no relationship whatsoever to the previous design. So when we look at this, we're looking at this as a whole new project, yet you're going back and picking up dribs and drabs of detailing from the previous building that really, to refresh our memory, that'd be a challenge. As you pick up on what requirements and at what point you're going to bring them before us again. Do we really remember all that? I don't know. Geez, we put an awful lot of effort into the previous building. The whole board took a lot of time with it. Now this is more than a modification, though I understand the idea that you still keep your traffic study, you keep all your mechanicals, your street penetrations, whatever. So, we don't have to go through all that again, thank goodness. But I don't know, I guess major modification, but gee, we'd like to see something here more than just conceptual at this point.
I would note for the board's consideration that if the board does determine to view what we're submitting as a new project proposal, then what we have noted as a intention to remain committed to all of the existing mitigation and conditions that we believe far outsize the reduced impacts, that we believe that would have to be revisited, and that the mitigation and the benefits benefits being provided by the prior proponent, and that this proponent is willing to continue to remain committed to, that we believe it would be inappropriate to treat this project as a brand new project, but ask us to remain committed to all of the old conditions that are outsized to this reduced project. Instead, we thought that the major modification process allowed the opportunity for a new design review for the updated design, and as a result would allow the proponent to remain committed to the oversized mitigation and benefits, which is ultimately the desire of the proponent to continue to honor the mitigation, but to have a new design review. And so just when you decide how you'd like to handle and accept this application, I would just put that to you.
No, I don't intend to ask you for a whole new process. No, it's fine. I mean, but I think what should be submitted to the board so that we know what we're picking up from the previous project, what conditions, we should get a list of conditions that were from the previous project, as well as the mitigations from the previous project. I don't know what any of them were. I'm okaying a project based on a previous project. That's all. I just think we need to get, coming out of our office, the conditions for this new one. Sounds reasonable to me.
So those conditions have all been approved as written. The only modification there would be what Jen had explained at the beginning of our presentation related to the potential to introduce state level entitlements that we felt was not the intent of that original condition number 44, and something worth cleaning up at this point. But otherwise, everything within the conditions and the prior project design has been reviewed and approved by the planning board, and we haven't proposed any sort of modifications there beyond number 44.
I mean, I agree.
Leo,
the design has changed. The whole design changed.
Leo, if I could just to answer your one question, I think a copy of the original decision was included in the application package.
I don't have it.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you have it in your materials. I know it's on the planning board's documents page, but I'm sure that we can just get you another copy of it so you have the full set of conditions. But I do believe it was resubmitted, or at least it was posted on that 449 planning board page that has all the agenda items.
Yes,
So I
Robin.
think we can get it.
That's kind of what I'm looking for, to know
we
what's
can
the
make sure that-
carryover, basically. Again, just
Or
like,
Matt can send you a copy of it, or
That'd
make
be
sure you
great.
get a copy. But it is in there in case anybody
okay,
wants to look at the online documentation. I think I saw it in there earlier today.
okay. We'll take a look at that then. I'll pick one up this week, next week rather. Thank you.
Okay. No problem.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Chairman, can I just clarify? I know Attorney Schultz said there was a particular condition that related to the additional submittals for the design. I'm just wondering if you can just give me the number on that condition. I just wanted to look at it.
Sure, Robin, it's number 44.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Jen, I think it may be 51. 44 relates to the improvement of the public realm, the sidewalk.
Sorry, don't listen to me, listen to Chris.
No, I'm just taking a look. Yep, so that one just covered on-site benches, signage, fencing, exterior vents, landscaping, materials, color, height of exterior walls. Okay, great, perfect, thank you. So Leo, when you look at it, take a particular look at condition 51, but we'll make sure, I'm sure we can get you a copy of it.
Thank you, Robin.
Yep, thank you.
I believe this is a public hearing. Is it not?
No, you're correct.
All right.
You are correct, it is.
So we're going to continue with the public hearing at this present time, I'm going to ask 3 times for all those that may be in favor of this petition. Is anyone in favor of this petition? Is anyone in favor of this petition? Third and final time, is anyone in favor of this petition? Hearing none, I declare that this part of the public hearing is closed
Can we just clarify that's just for this evening, Mr. Chairman?
for this evening. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And I'm going to ask 3 times for those that may be opposed to this petition. Is anyone opposed to this petition? Is anyone opposed to this petition? Third and final time. Is anyone opposed to this petition? Hearing none, I declare that part of the public hearing closed this evening at this present time. But I will ask that the board keep the public hearing open until our next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, are we concluding our discussion and presentation on our proposal at this point, or can I continue to?
Well, there were some questions as to, Mr. Pisano had some questions. He wants to review some documents. And I think we all want to do a little bit of research too. And where it is somewhat more of a modification than a modification, like taking 2 parking spots and making 1. It's like a whole new process here, and it's a lot to digest in just one evening. And hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion for continuance.
Then we'll make a motion for continuance to site plan review and inclusionary zoning for 35 Garvey Street to July 19th, Everett City Hall, 7 o'clock, Cavarian Room, with the public hearing remaining open.
Why July 19th?
I'm sorry, make it July,
No, what's wrong with?
huh?
It's June, right?
You still have a June 28th meeting, correct? or
June
no?
28th.
June 28th.
Okay, make it to June 28th then.
Second motion.
A motion has been made and seconded to continue this public hearing for 35 Garvey Street with the inclusionary zoning until our next regular meeting, which is on June 28, 2021, 7 p.m. at City Hall. Roll call vote, please.
Michael,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Leo,
Yes,
Fred.
Yes. Motion is continued. Thank you, folks.
Mr. Chair, I would just note too that departments such as, inspectional services, police, fire, et cetera, they have these plans as of late last week. I imagine they will just want to weigh in and chime in on them as well.
it's one of the things that have to come up with it, all departments, correct. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
I hope you can find your way to City Hall.
I'll be there.
Next order of business, please.
The next order of business is meeting minutes.
No, we don't have any. Sorry.
Okay.
We don't have any? Okay. Any communications?
No communications from me. Matt should be back next week to take over.
Fine. Having none, the chair will entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Second motion.
Has been made and seconded to adjourn. Roll call vote, please.
Michael,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Phil,
Yes.
Leo,
Yes,
Fred.
Yes, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
thank you all.
Thank you all.
All right.
Night.
And
Good night. All right.